Mamdani just doxed 960,000 New Yorkers. This is fucking insane. So Mamdani's new plan is to tax New Yorkers who have homes in New York but don't live there full time, which is an insane thing to tax people for owning a home and then just not living there all the time. Like, God forbid you have a second home. How dare you? But yeah, so his department.
How dare you be successful enough to buy a second home or an investment income or a rental property? How freaking dare you do this to America? Zohran Mamdani, the distributor of wealth in New York City. And now people are fleeing the city. There's a lot of people that are moving to the city because they want free stuff. This just gets better. This is our buddy Team FU. This is Joe, the older millennial.
Department took those 960,000 people, those 960,000 residents of New York, and created a searchable database with their name and address just listed publicly. That's fucking doxing. Imagine if somebody was like, hey, I'm going to create a searchable database of all the content creators on TikTok. And on there, I'm going to list their name, their screen name, and their home address. Y'all would lose your fucking mind. Or put it more politically, say Trump wanted to create a searchable database of every Democrat donor where it would have their name and their address and how much money they gave. Y'all would have him impeached within a week.
That's so true. If Donald Trump did what Zohran Mamdani just did, this would be international criminal court. This would be the Nuremberg trials. They would wake up Bill Clinton. They would have him back. They would have a seance to bring back some Supreme Court justices. Trump would be ran out of town. But because it's the Zohran, everything's okay.
Mamdani puts up everybody's name and address into an easily searchable database, putting all of these people at risk of harassment and violence. And everybody just goes, oh, he's doing a great job.
And I've been doxxed.
You've been doxxed.
So here we've got Scott Galloway. Scott Galloway is a very liberal professor in New York City. And this is Kara Swisher, a very liberal reporter, if you want to use that term, very loosely, over at CNN. They have a channel together called The Pivot. I don't know what they're pivoting on, but now old Scott Galloway is having buyer's remorse.
What? Tell me.
So I don't know if you've heard, but Mayor Mamdani has decided to release a list of the 950,000 residences with addresses and names that might be eligible for his pied-à-terre tax. I came out in favor of this tax. This is the definition. He's taken a legitimate source of tax revenue and he's turning it into a wanted poster. And
it's okay for the left, for the liberals, as long as it doesn't affect them. As long as it affects somebody else, the other millionaires, the other billionaires, the other oligarchs, then he's okay with it. But as soon as it affects him, liberal professor, then the rules are wrong. The game is over. It's not fair. Well, you voted for it, dude. You just said you did.
The question I would have is, other than trying to identify and imply these people have done something wrong, and then 18 months after a healthcare CEO was executed in the street, and then
Wait. He's not allowed to be against that. Luigi Mangione, did a public service by getting rid of a CEO of a healthcare company. Now, suddenly, Scott Galloway cares about crime, cares about safety, cares about privacy, cares about, doxing. When conservative businesses were being targeted by the Obama administration, by the Biden administration, Scott Galloway didn't care about that. Neither did CNN, neither did, Kara Swisher. But now that the chickens have come home to roost, Scott cares, and we should all feel sorry for him.
publish the list. What is the upside here? Why is he doing this?
Well, he's doing this because, Scott, that's what he told you he was going to do. He is a socialist mayor. Socialist mayors take from the rich and give to everyone else. Meanwhile, he's keeping the air conditioning at City Hall at 54 degrees, and he's telling all of you to shut down your AC. This is do as I say, not as I do. Right, Scott? That's what you need. That's where you need to think about this.
How dare he? Who's accepting an award for her White House coverage. Trump was also sat there as the Wall Street Journal accepted an award for its reporting on his ties to Jeffrey Epstein in that famous birthday greeting thing with the lady's vagina. You know how I feel about this correspondence dinner. I think it's just repulsive, and I had offered to pay for the scholarships because I hated it so much.
They hate the correspondence dinner as long as Trump has an opportunity to speak. When there was an attempt in the president's life, correspondence dinner should have just carried on. They were making fun of the people running through with the police officers. They loved the correspondence dinner when Obama was, making fun of the president, the current president. They loved the correspondence dinner when Joe Biden was, there. I don't know if he knew where he was at, but it's okay. You're starting to understand this double-edged sword with the news media. It's becoming so blatantly evident.
But I covered it as a young reporter. I thought it was terrible 20 years ago. This was just bad. And, don't come for Caitlin Collins, my friend. I thought she acted rather well, although I suspect nobody should have been there in the first place. But
oh, there you go. So Caitlin Collins, you can't talk about the news media. You're not allowed to criticize news reporters. But the other side of the road, the news media can go after the president, can go after you, can go after the president's wife, the vice president's wife, the vice president's children. But the minute that anyone pushes back on the news media, that's out of bounds. You're not allowed to do it. Let's get back to this.
Caitlin Collins, my friend. I thought she acted rather well, although I suspect nobody should have been there in the first place. But that's just...
And we have this 80-year-old man making the creep. This wasn't even about insults. It's like, this dude is just so fucking creepy. It's like your grandfather whose doddering shows up and won't stop talking about his grandson's girlfriend in a very uncomfortable way.
Okay, Scott, you're talking about the president making comments about the news media. But Scott and Kara, when did either of you say anything about something being creepy when it was Joe Biden being named in the diaries from his daughter, rub-a-dub-dub, right? Nobody talked about that. Nothing was creepy about that, Scott.
It's like, dude, just take your limp and just take it somewhere else. Here. It's so... The air, I don't know, the clip, the air in that room was like, oh, God, this is just the worst thing. And let's go macro. The White House Correspondents' Dinner is like Blockbuster holding an award show for who has the best DVD. No.
They love the White House Correspondents' Dinner anytime it works for their narrative. When it doesn't meet their narrative, it's bad. When the news media looks bad, then they don't like it. When the president looks bad, love it. Let's have parties. Let's celebrate. Let's get out our iPhones whenever there's an attempt on his life.
No one gives a shit.
Love the city.
And I moved there in 2000. I was not rich. And I worked my ass off in New York. And I decided, you know what? I can't afford to live here. And I moved to Florida. But I decided I'm going to start a business intelligence firm called L2. And I started it in New York because A, it's an amazing place to start a business, and B, I always wanted to have a foot in New York. I started L2 in 2010. I sold it in 2017, and I've spent a bunch of time this morning trying to figure out what are the taxes, not the federal taxes, but the state franchise tax, real estate taxes, payroll taxes paid by L2 from 2010 to present to New York City and state. and it's about $51 million.
He says, I'm not rich. And he spent $51 million in taxes. Do you realize what the hell's going on here? This is called hypocrisy, ladies and gentlemen. Sales or, business tax that's typically 30%, $51 million in taxes. So he made $160 million. He's got to pay $51 million.
The average, in other words, L2 is paying for what one of the largest firehouses in downtown. The budget for one of the largest firehouses in downtown Manhattan is $26 million a year. And but quite frankly, what he's saying is, okay, and when I sold my company in 2017, I was living in faculty housing. My dean called me and said, congratulations, I just saw you sold it for this. You need to move out.
He was living in subsidized housing for teachers, for professors, sells a company for $150 million. And now he's upset because he's got to buy his own place to live. And now he's upset because the mayor of New York says, you got 2 homes, we're going to tax you, and let's just put it out publicly. Now he's upset?
Out of faculty housing, which was fair.
Right, and you bought your apartment, yes.
And I bought an apartment. And now when he starts putting, quite frankly, when he starts putting a target, he's implying we've done something wrong.
Well, you have done something wrong. Millionaires are evil. You're not supposed to have a successful business, Scott. He's implying we've done something wrong. Well, you did. You didn't pay your fair share, man. And in socialism, fair share is for everyone.
He's implying that we're guilty of something.
You are guilty of something. You're guilty of being successful. You're guilty of being, the American dream. You're guilty of taking care of your own stuff. And you're guilty of voting for Mamdani, this socialist mayor. You voted for him, not me. So when you don't get what you want, Kara, Scott, you have yourselves to blame. He's doubling down because the city of New York is running out of money. And socialism doesn't create money, it just takes money. And it takes money from rich people, and it basically distributes it to everyone else. What do you think about Mamdani? What do you think about his whole game in New York City? Is this what the people in New York City deserve? Specifically the ones that voted for it? It damn sure feels like it. It feels like the people that voted for this are getting what they deserve. I'll see you in the next one. Hit the like and subscribe button on your way out the door.